Good evening, my name's Chris Turner. I'm the Head of Business Operations at GM Active, and I'd like to welcome you all to this Transformational Leadership webinar launch. We have a great attendance on this Zoom call this evening, and it's a very exciting time for GM Active as we launch this exciting, innovative and trailblazing programme. We've got a good crowd with us today. We've got at least 40-50 people on the call. All those staff members who have been selected to take part in the first cohort of the programme, which starts in a couple of weeks on the 5th of July. We've also got those managers who are supporting those staff from their leadership journey. And we've also got staff who are interested in taking part in the second cohort, which is being delivered later in the year. Now, this leadership programme follows on from the GM Active Skills and Training Academy, which we launched earlier this year in January, and is going to be providing further training for our staff across Greater Manchester to help us deliver and lead on this new vision for health and well-being. The leadership programme is being supported by Greater Sport and made possible with investment from the National Lottery through the local pilot in Greater Manchester with Sport England, and delivered in partnership with the training provider Future Fit Training. And we would like to thank both those organisations for their continued support for GM Active. The webinar is being recorded for those who can't attend today and will last approximately an hour. And we want to let you know why we developed this programme, what the sector need is, information about the current sector landscape, also what the programme structure is and the content, as well as the key learner outcomes, and also what's expected of you. What are the learner and staff requirements for those taking part? You'll have the opportunity to ask questions at the end, but please feel free to ask any questions via the chat box throughout the webinar, and we'll do our best to answer them. And please can I request that you turn off your cameras and put yourself on mute as we go through the webinar. Moving on, please, Paul. So it's vital that staff across GM Active understand much more about the system that they are part of, and also how they can better play their part in improving health and well-being across Greater Manchester. In particular, helping to address the health and physical activity inequalities which exist. It is clear that leaders already exist across GM Active. We don't need to build this, we know that, but we want to enable it to grow, want it to do more, and we want to better connect to other parts of the system. Fundamentally, it is about people individually. It's about people changing individually that leads to sustainable change in the system. This leadership programme will help change staff's attitudes, priorities, focus, approaches, and also behaviours. This is going to really help drive long-lasting transformational change across GM Active. Through a collaborative and interactive learning journey, this programme will aim to support you to transition from being a manager of fitness and facilities to a future leader of health, well-being and communities. We hope you'll better understand the system that you're a part of and how you can support and influence that system moving forward. I'm now going to pass you over to the chair of GM Active, Andy King, who are going to introduce our panel of experts who have been supporting the development of this programme as well as the webinar today.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, evening all. First off, before I introduce our panel, can I just say two quick thank yous. One to Nick Loden, formerly of Greater Sport, who's helped us. He's now gone on to other things, but he helped us tremendously to get to this point. And probably most of all to Andrea Pardo, the HR manager at Link for Life, or Your Trust as we're called now. A lot of work's gone in to get us to this very much of a start line. So thank you to those two on top of everything else. Okay, so the panel today, I am so excited with this panel. It's the best we could possibly hope for. And I'll just take you through them very quickly because you want to hear about from them, not from me. First off, we've got Hayley Lever. Hayley is the current CEO of Greater Sport, as well as executive lead of GM Moving. Hayley is a gifted writer, able to express challenging concepts incredibly well. And I highly recommend you follow her on Twitter and read her blogs, as they are crammed with very relevant and timely learnings that any leader would find useful and thought-provoking. Hayley's an exceptional leader who's in the vanguard of the transformation that Sport England is undergoing itself, utilising learnings from the local pilots that are exploring how we can engage with the system and be part of something much bigger than simple leisure or sport. Thanks for joining us, Hayley. Our next guest is my old friend, Malcolm McPhail, consultant, former CEO, leader, and general legend, effectively. As I say, Malcolm is an old friend and colleague who has probably won more national awards, he tells us, for creating high-performing teams than anyone in recent times. Seriously, the phrase inspirational leader is bandied about too often nowadays, but in Malcolm's case, it's most certainly spot on. And I know firsthand as I worked for him in the past. Malcolm is also a writer In fact, all of our guests today are, and I urge you to read what they all produce on social media. From an innovative start at Bolton Council to leading next generation and on to creating arguably the best leisure trust in the country with multiple awards bestowed on it. Everywhere Markham goes, the legacy he creates is a raft of people who go on to amazing careers in their own right and who would walk over hot coals for him. He also continues to outsprint all other 50-somethings around the world, competing for Scotland and GB. And as you can see from the photo behind him, probably has the best legs in the sector. Our next guest is also someone I've known for a very, very long time, Duncan Wood-Allen. Duncan is a preeminent strategic thinker in our sector. Last year, in the early days of lockdown, Health Club Management published his vision for leisure and how we could pivot to a wellness service, and it still remains the outstanding blueprint for us to make a reality. He had originally an operational background, went on to set up Quest, and then learned his trade as a consultant with blue chip consultancies before establishing his own company, SLC, in 2009. Duncan regularly works on behalf of Sport England and is currently assisting us in Greater Manchester on a project to help us understand how we can transform ourselves to be fit for the future, and his input has been invaluable. A well-travelled, intelligent thought leader who, like Hayley, has the ability to decipher complex issues, so lesser mortals like me can understand them. Last but not least, John Oxley. John is one of those rare beasts, a vastly experienced leisure manager with over 35 years in the sector, and a leader who is undoubtedly one of the best and most highly respected operators in the country. He's also an innovator and a strategist. John came on my radar when he was the MD of Active Nation, and his bold, creative and inspiring vision to literally get the nation active, long before this became the industry's mantra. One of my managers went to work for John and delighted in telling me all the great things they were doing that we weren't. So I copied him. Thanks, John. Then he went on to bigger things to no one's surprise and headed up places for people, leisure nationally, and again established them as one of the most successful leisure operators in the country. I'm delighted that John has agreed to be the anchor for us on this transformational leadership program. So that's it. That's the panel. I now hand over to John. Thank you. Thank you. Hand over to John and he'll take it from here. Thank you.
Really, I don't know how to respond to those kind words. I don't think any of us do. You know, we've never been spoken about in such glowing terms. But anyway, it's so brilliant to be part of something that's really innovative, and I think I'm absolutely chuffed to bits. We all are chuffed to bits with the number of people that are attending and listening in tonight. It's been an odd 18 months, hasn't it? Unpleasant for a lot of people, unpleasant for a lot of organisations. But out of adversity comes hope, generally. I think somebody once said that. And the smart ones, when it's like this, reflect upon what and how things can be better in the future. And I think the terrific thing is that you people on this call just now have got really smart leaders who take the opportunity to reflect and to think about what the future might look like. And they've recognised that things change and that we have to shape a new future for ourselves. And really, that is how this programme has been born. And it's designed with, not with us, but it's designed with you and your communities in mind, because it's designed to have an effect. There's no point in doing things unless they work. So it's designed to support you, to enhance your capability and equip you to be even more successful in the future than you are just now, and to take account of this ever-changing landscape that we're living in. And actually, change happens because we sometimes make it change, and that's the mark of a great leader. So I think before we sort of go any further, I think when the five of us got together originally, we got really excited about discussing this program, and the call that was meant to last 20 minutes lasted probably an hour and 20, although the first bit was listening to Malcolm talk about, no, it wasn't. But we got really excited about it. We believed that this could be genuinely transformational. We understood what it is, the environment that we were going into, and we understood that we were privileged to have an opportunity to shape what that future might look like. More importantly, to shape what it might look like for other people, namely yourselves. So I guess our task over the next 20 minutes is to inspire you to be as excited as we were. So that's my sort of opening gambit. So less of me. Malcolm, you and I have chatted about how we've experienced transformational change through leadership, through culture, in our careers. From your perspective, I think it would be great for you to share with the guys how you would describe the opportunity they have for personal development that this program is likely to bring.
Yeah, thanks, John. Listen, really simple. We're going to make you better. We're going to make you better leaders, or your money back. I've seen the curriculum. I know these guys, and do you know what? I wish I wasn't delivering it. I wish I was sitting listening on the other side. That you're going to be, because it's going to be a once in a lifetime opportunity in terms of the curriculum, and it's not just about the technical stuff they're going to give you. It's the stories that they're going to tell you. It's the experience that they bring to the table. I wouldn't even like to think the cumulative total of experience, operational experience, strategic experience, cultural development experience. I'm excited for you, and wait till you see the program. And it's just, guys, listen, this is not to be missed. I'm probably the weakest link in the chain, Andrew, for the first time in my career. I'm going to say that, but hopefully I'll just need to lift my game, bring my A game like Scotland did the other night. Sorry, did I drop that in there? And listen, John, it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Well, that's an endorsement from Malcolm. You're certainly not the weak link, Malcolm, and I think that's one of the things that really is I think really relevant, and that I think we'd like you to really grasp that. And I hope this comes through, and I'm sure it has done from myself and Malcolm so far. There is some real energy and some excitement about this program because it's innovative, and because we genuinely believe that it's transformational. And to be part of something. I mean, some people say, "Oh, never be a pioneer." Blow that. I love being a pioneer. Things change as a consequence of pioneering, and you have that opportunity to change too, to change things too, and that's an exciting place to be. Hayley, you bring a very different perspective to things. As exec lead for GM Moving, as CEO for Greater Sport, it gives you that sort of broader perspective of the role of physical activity in population health. And we remember we're trying to shift our heads from the four walls of a leisure centre into realising that, things happen outside that are really, really relevant and are going to be increasingly relevant in the future. I'm really interested in your views as to how greater collaboration could influence the health and well-being of communities from the way that you see it, Hayley.
Thanks, John. Yeah, and thanks. Really great to be part of this opening session, and I hope I can continue to be involved along the way as it develops, because I think it will emerge, and it will be innovative. But I think I'm really keen that we hook back in along the way. I guess I'm sitting here listening to this, and I'm sort of thinking, actually, if I put my day job aside, I have a dream and a vision for how I think collaboration in communities can work and does work when it's really good. And actually the story I would just start with is I sat in the pub garden where I live last week with the practice manager and one of the GPs from our local GP practice and our community organisation that I'm involved with as we develop our plans for the next kind of 5 to 10 years. And we just were talking about health and wellbeing. We were talking about, and I was asking the GP, you know, what are you seeing showing up in the GP practice these days? What are the patterns? What are the needs? And we started to explore how in a place all of the bits of the jigsaw could come together. So from a, you know, what would it take for us as a community to collectively respond to the health and wellbeing needs of the population? And it was just a fantastic conversation in which all of the ingredients of that sort of real vision and dream that I would have for every place across Greater Manchester came to life. And it's that simple, but there are some leadership practices and some ways of working and some conditions we need to create to make it a reality. And I see bits of it all over Greater Manchester in all the work that everyone on this call is doing. So I guess the aspiration I would have is almost for us to notice what it really looks and feels like when you're leading in a place outside the walls of a leisure centre and inside the walls of a leisure centre to really genuinely play a part in community wellbeing. And then collectively, let's describe what that looks like and how you lead, you know, in this context, how you lead for that kind of change. Because I think, well, I know that in Greater Manchester and in each one of the 10 localities, we've got a set of conditions developing. It's not there yet, but a set of developing conditions that give us the best chance that I think there is around the country to make this a reality, when health and community and voluntary sector and community leisure and local leadership and local authorities, you know, all start to come together to really genuinely put people in communities at the heart of what they are getting up every day to do in their day job. And when you develop that sort of trust and openness and real integrated collaborative ways of working, how much difference that can make to people's lives and working genuinely with people and communities. So I think for me, it's an exciting opportunity to sort of visualize, not only to develop the individuals on this call as leaders, but actually to, along the way, collectively vision for the future. And obviously we've done some, you know, great work that Duncan's been supporting over the last nearly a year now to start to describe what that looks like. So now the challenge is how we make it happen for real. And, you know, we've got a whole bunch of people here ready to start to play their part. So that's genuinely exciting. So I'll leave it there.
No, that's terrific. I mean, there's lots of things that we can sort of extract out of that. You know, the larger the landscape, the ability to be collaborative. Great to hear that. You know, people are starting to visualize something different. And I guess part of what you were talking about then, Hayley, was influence. And I wonder whether I could come back to Malcolm again. You know, in terms of the ability to influence as a leader. I wonder whether you can share with us some of your thoughts, Malc, around just the importance of influence and how things breed as a consequence of that.
Yeah, thanks, John. I think I'm going to just try and give tasters as part of what we're going to be delivering. So in terms of emotional intelligence, emotional resilience, having the ability to see the full picture when you're in an influencing position, I think you'll also learn the difference between listening to reply and listening to understand, which is hugely important in terms of when you're in bed last to speak in the room, and you know, and like, you know, coming from a perspective that in a balance that life is pretty hard. You know, life is pretty hard, and you're going to need a set of skills to navigate through it successfully or whatever. And you know, so you're going to hear quite a lot about that when I'm talking, when I'm delivering. Also in terms of influencing individuals, influence teams, influence communities, influence sectors, influence nations. It's actually the same set of skills. It's just landscapes. But I'm more focused. I'm going to be more focused on the individuals and how they then take those skills and for the transformational change aspects. So it'll be around emotional intelligence, around disruptive thinking in terms of change, leadership. You're going to hear a wee bit about behaviour change from me in terms of a wee bit of science and applying those scientific models, trans-theoretical model, Bandura's model, into your setting and operational settings. And then the big one is, deploying the cultural change in the whole community setting, and which our governing body, Sport England, are attempting to do at the moment. Hugely brave of them. I think we ought to give them a bit of support on that one by being good troopers in terms of taking what they bravely the direction of travel they've taken. Let's get on side with them, and I think this part of the program will cover that, and the skills that you need, and the attitude and the behaviours that you need, but grounded really in this thing that keeps coming back, John, and we could talk about it all day in terms of kind of emotional intelligence, emotional resilience that seems to be emerging as a key factor in terms of young leaders and future leaders.
Well, definitely, Malc, and I think, one of the things that, people on this call will have heard the phrase, "Oh, money makes the world go round." I'll tell you now, it doesn't. People make the world go round, and that's the true test. This program, the stuff that Malcolm talks about there. If you start to influence people and then start to influence more people, then change happens. And that's about understanding people, showing empathy, being able to be agile, adjust your approach as a leader according to circumstances, according to situations, according to people's different beliefs, according to different positions in landscape and what have you. And that's about, those are about people skills. Those are about real hard and fast people skills. They're not functional stuff. It's about understanding people, because if you can influence people, things happen.
And John, that's a hard journey. That's
a hard
journey. Learning, you learn why you keep giving up and stuff, why you can't change behaviour, and it's not your behaviour, it's your belief system. So we're going to track into your belief system. There's some awakenings in there for a lot of people, but it's a road that we need to travel, John.
Yeah, and once we've got those skills, coming to yourself, Duncan, the development of those leadership skills, the appreciation, as Hayley has spoken about a broader landscape, have to then be applied. And Duncan, the pandemic has provided an opportunity to think differently about the future of sport and physical activity and leisure facility provision as part of it. You've had the advantage, I guess, of seeing how that opportunity is being grasped in different parts of the country by local authorities, by facility operators. By the way, everybody, can't stand that term, facility operators. We're activity enablers. But we know this is a pioneering program that's unique to GM. So I'd be interested from your perspective, having sort of seen what's happening, around the country. What advantages do you think that brings to this team, this cohort, as we deal with this sort of post-COVID challenge?
Thanks, John, and good evening, everybody, and thanks for inviting me to play my role here. I think my big observation is, particularly for our friends in the activity business who are joining us on this journey, is what are the opportunities around us pivoting so that we can, as a sector, particularly within Greater Manchester, have the biggest possible impact on wider population health within our communities, and as part of that have the biggest possible impact on the system within which we're working. And that can be demonstrated in a variety of different ways. And of course, responding to the situation we've got at the moment is part of that journey. And at the moment, what we're finding and what we're seeing across the country is that there's a tendency to try and fix what we had and in effect, repair the past and move forward into the future. And I think that's fundamentally the wrong thing for us to be doing as a sector, within individual leisure facilities, within individual teams. The massive opportunity we've got is to reimagine the contribution that we can make to help people become more active and to build it into their lives, building on that behaviour change that Malcolm made reference to. The challenge I've got for the whole sector across the UK, but we've got a golden opportunity within GM, is to show the rest of the country how we can do things differently. For example, what are we doing about activating our parks and open spaces over this summer period while the weather's a little bit warmer? I know it's cheap, fiddling down with rain at the moment, but are we as a sector fully embracing seasonality? I don't think we are. I know for a fact, Malcolm's former organisation has been very proactive in that area around activating green space. I know Andy's organisation has. But if you go to the big mainstream leisure operators, they're still just concentrating on recovering their own internal inner box service. Now that's fine, but we need leaders at all levels to be innovative and seize the opportunity. How can we get the people that are too nervous to get back into a leisure centre just yet? People around my age, over 50s, they're terrified to go inside some of them. I'm not, I'm in already, but a lot of people are. So how can we help them make that transition into a more active lifestyle and re-engaging with your organisation, because it can provide a wide range of services, maybe by having a stepping stone, which is a broader outdoor programme. So what I hope you're going to pick up from this scheme is the ability to identify a need and at your level start to embrace that change and then be a part of it and have the confidence to go and innovate and try things and persuade your stakeholders, your managers, your communities to have a go at something and then not be afraid of failing. I think that's probably all I've got to say right now, John.
Brilliant. Thanks, Duncan. That's really helpful. And while you were speaking, it's been terrific, hasn't it? To because in my head I can piece together things that Malcolm's saying with things that Hayley's saying with the stuff that you're saying, and that's really the point. There's this connection going on that's enabling us to think differently about stuff for the future. One of the things that I was really struck on is, and it came out with yourself there, Duncan, and it came out with what Hayley said earlier, and I think it's important that we sort of get this message across. Hayley talked about a vision emerging, and I think it's important when we're talking about transformational change. There is no absolute. We're not going from A to B, and once we get to B, everything will be fine. This is a learning program, and Hayley's vision is an emerging vision that will continue to be refined, and there'll be different iterations along the way. And I think that's important from my point of view. I think that we will learn stuff from each other as we go through this program, because this is an applied program. Yes, we're going to learn some stuff and we're going to try and relate it to the stuff that we're doing in our day jobs, but that stuff in the day job is changing all the time. So we're just going to get richer and richer as time progresses, and that will develop our skills, and it will enable us to respond more capably in the future. But I don't want anybody to feel that I go and learn on this program and I come out with something and everything is going to be wonderful. This is about equipping you with broader skills in order that you're more capable of being agile and responsive and shaping things as we go forward. I will share. I'll have this. Malcolm will like this. He might not remember it, but my favorite ever T-shirt was a Nike T-shirt, and in 1983, when I had this Nike T-shirt, there weren't that many Nike t-shirts about, but it was a sunset and there was a runner, and the strap line said, "There is no finish line." And that stayed with me. In fact, I wish I had the t-shirt, although it'd be mothballed full now. But there is no finish line, and that's really part of being a leader. There is never a finish line. You're continually developing, refining, and what have you, and that's what this program will be about, I think. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of a taster on how we feel about the program, what it contains. I wonder if any of you, Hayley, Andy, Malcolm, Duncan, have got any other sort of final morsel to leave the guys with before we sort of move on.
John, I just think you're right in terms of the process is way more important than the outcome, and the richness of the people who you, I was going to say be sitting alongside, but virtually. And there is going to be a two-way learning process in terms. I'll be well aware that there'll be some top leaders within the cohort that don't realize they're top leaders, and they'll have all the skills, and it will be that realization through this program, and it will just nudging them in that direction, and that'll be through the process, not but with a focus on the outcomes. So absolutely. Spot on as usual.
Brilliant. Anybody else? Andy, any observations?
I think John, just I hope people's appetites are being whetted, and all I would say is a bit similar to Malcolm, really. I think this is about people understanding this is a leadership program, and you get what you put in life. And I think this is all about, I've already said about seeking out what you guys write. I think it's not you attend this course and you will cough out the other end with everything you need to know. Far from it. It's a course that will lead to other things and hopefully inspire people to do their own studying and research and things. And it is a transformational program with no clear-cut answers often. So I think hopefully that's what everybody is aware of and has signed up for and will sign up to. And it is something that we feel, obviously, clearly, all of us, that this is absolutely necessary. So yeah, just really looking forward to it, and I hope that's coming across loud and clear of what's required from everybody.
Brilliant, thanks, Andy. Well, let's just whip through the sort of principles of the program. And by the way, we want to sort of shut up very, very soon in order that you can ask some questions. So if you want to drop things into the chat or just put hands up and what have you, we'll respond to those. But the program is in 5 modules. Hopefully you can see those on the screen just now. And I suppose, and I don't need to read the five out, but I suppose I'd like you to think about those 5 modules in 3 parts, really. First of all, there's a learning part. There's a learning about some stuff around leadership and some principles, things that we care passionately about. And there's some little interesting nuances that each of us, from a personal point of view, we've used them in the past ourselves, so we know they work, but they're a bit quirky. So you'll come across a reference to Finding Nemo in the program, as an example. You'll come across strange statements like, if it ain't broke, break it. Those types of things that influence us as leaders. So there's a learning piece. There's a learning about organizational culture that Malcolm has spoken about just now, and there's a learning piece about just what is system thinking. What is it? What does all that mean? So that learning piece provides the sort of foundation stones, I suppose, of the program. There's then a knowledge piece, a deeper and richer understanding, hopefully, of the sport and physical activity ecosystem. We probably use terms like, I work in the sector, or the industry I work in is this. And I think we've come to understand over the course of the last 18 months that actually population health, sport and physical activity, encouraging people just to move about a bit more. You know, there's a rich and deep breadth to that opportunity, and we can get a little bit siloed, and I think we've been guilty of that in the past. So this is about sort of increasing, expanding your knowledge of how that whole sort of, that all those opportunities exist and coexist, how they can work together, how that we can perhaps, there's stuff out there that we've seen but not really found. So the many sort of constituent parts that make up of the world in which we work, there's some knowledge there. And then the third and final bit is actually, how do we then start to apply it? What is the application here? What can I as an individual do, or I as a leader of other people start to do and apply that learning and apply that knowledge to make our workplace better equipped, so that life in our communities can be better equipped for people to be healthier and happier and more productive and all of those sorts of things. So that application bit is the third thing that we sort of stress again. You know, we've got to learn, we've got to apply the things that we learn in order that we make this world a better place. So that is sort of three themes running across 5 modules. Paul may explain a little bit of how the I'm getting feedback on my mic now. So you'll get the chance to let. Is anybody else getting feedback? So you get the chance to check your learning. You'll be able to bounce off each other. That'll be an important part of the program. You know, working as a cohort collectively, so that you can share things, share ideas, check learning, check understanding, not just from ourselves but also each other, I think is also going to be part of the program. And there's a task to conclude at the end. I don't know whether you want to sort of shift on to the next slide now, Paul.
There you go, John. Yeah, I was just going to add on just in terms of the structure of the programme. So as Chris alluded to earlier on, my name is Paul. I'm the Research Development Manager at FutureFit, and it's my job, or my team's job, to kind of download and extract as much wisdom and knowledge as we can from John's head, as well as Malcolm, Haley and Duncan as well, and convert that into an effective training programme. So the way that the Transformational Leadership Programme will work is that there will be an initial piece of online learning, and then that will be followed by some interactive activities and tasks to help you go away and apply what we've learned, and also to reflect and cement the knowledge. And then there'll be a group session, kind of like a round table, a bit like this one, where everybody within the group will be able to share ideas, reflect, ask questions, again tap into John's mind, and be inspired to help further that journey. One thing that isn't on this slide, which is an added bonus, is that each of the panelists has agreed to do a separate webinar ahead of each of the parts of the program as well. So that's an added layer of kind of value and quality that we're going to get into this program, making it really effective. In terms of the time frame for the program, it's going to be released on a monthly basis. So each part of the program will be released at the start of the month in terms of the introductory webinar, and then the online learning, and that will happen throughout the rest of the year. So the 5th and final part will happen in November. So it's designed to kind of take place over a period of time. We originally thought we might try and do it in a matter of weeks, but we want this to be really effective for people to go away and apply what they've learned and reflect on it and make it as effective as possible. So we thought a longer time frame would help in that aim. After the 5 parts are complete, it's all going to build towards the if you like, main application task, which helps to put everything into context and put everything into practice, which John's now going to go back and talk about a little bit more, which is the 100-day plan. So back to you, John, if you want to pick up there.
So after the gone through the program, obviously there's we felt that it would be a really good idea that somebody once told me that you know, what you don't want is popcorn training, you know, where you just go and sit down, listening to room. You can munch away as if you're at the pictures and or cinema. I call it pictures, flicks, or whatever, and then leave again, and it'll either have gone in or it hasn't. We think this learning needs to be, you know, practiced, and can you put something into place at the end of the program, or can you start to put things in place at the end of this program? And so we've come up with this concept of a 100-day plan. So at the conclusion of the program, and we're going to ask you to grab one of the themes from the new Sport England strategy, Uniting the Movement. There are 5 themes in there. Pick one that you can align a mini project to, a 100-day plan. Establish a goal, write a vision of, you know, what do things look like and feel like in 100 days time that's different to what it is now, and then start to build a plan in order to get yourself there. And that will give you real life practice back in your workplace, with your teams, with other people, in order that change and that vision that Hayley started to talk about becomes a reality. So that's the sort of summation of the program. And I think once you'll get into that, and it'll never stop. You'll be so inspired. You'll have that will be an ongoing process of change. That and as I said earlier, there is no finish line, but the pedals will be turning, the wheels will be moving, and things will be transforming as a consequence of your leadership. So that's the purpose of that 100-day plan. How's that, Paul?
It sounds great. Thank you. Right then, Chris, it's back to yourself for any questions, which you've got a few coming in on the chat if you've got access to that.
Yeah, Lorna Goldie has asked, does each part have to be completed in the relevant month?
So yes, I could that one, I suppose. The program is designed to be done in a kind of cohort format. So there'll be an initial group of leaders that go through it at the same time. And because of the nature of the group sessions and the live webinars, it will work much more effectively if everyone takes part as a group. There's the e-learning part of it. There's no kind of strict time frame to do that within it. You can do that in your own time, as it were. But to get the most out of the program, it would obviously be more effective if people can attend that group session. Chris, I don't know if you've got any further thoughts you want to add on that from your perspective.
No, like you said, I think that's fine, Paul. Again, I got feedback on my microphone now, apologies. But yeah, I think it is a program as you complete month by month, and then with the 100-day plan, as John explained.
I think there's if I can just pop in there, Chris, there's quite a nice logic to the program, which means that it's you know, module 2 fits quite neatly after module 1. Module 3 builds upon that, and we build to this thing where we start to build on the learning and get into application. And so it's helpful. It's been built in a logical sort of way.
Next question from Adam on the chat. His reference is a massive question, so I'll pass this over to the panel. First of all, we absolutely love the passion and enthusiasm that you'll speak with. I echo that. So thanks very much all for your passion. But Adam's question is, do you feel there will be issues around getting everyone active and financial viability to do so, with operators, as you all said, are more focused on recovery? Now, in my opinion, is a time to change, adapt and innovate. Interested to see how we all change the way leisure looks in the future. Has anyone got a response to that question or statement?
Hi, Chris. I'm happy to come in on this one. Adam, it's an absolutely stonkingly good question, but I think it's not a question, it's a challenge for us all. This is the biggest challenge our sector has. How do we recover? And the thing is, we're all waiting for somebody else to tell us the answer. And actually, the answer lies in our communities. It lies within you and your teams and the system and the local system that you're part of to address that challenge. And I think one weakness in the past that we have as a sector is we think somebody else has a better answer than we do. And we're afraid of experimenting. And I think the key thrust of this whole program is to give you the confidence to, you've clearly got an amazing mind, Adam, because that is just brilliant as a question and a challenge, is to go off and do something with it next. And I think we will be able to, and the cohort you're working with will give you the confidence to see this as the biggest challenge of your career, and you're going to go and tackle it head on with your colleagues and with your communities and with your partners.
Adam, I agree. It's a great question. A little peep into the principles of leadership. Module 1. I mean, one of the things that I often say is it's not essential to have all the answers. Sorry, it's not necessary to have all the answers, but it's essential to be asking the right questions. And I think that your question is a brilliant one. If you're asking that question, my suggestion is that ultimately we will all find the solutions. If we keep asking ourselves the tough questions, even though we might not know the answers, it's the process. Leadership is about the process that you go through in asking those difficult questions, and start to looking at different perspectives, exploring things and looking at things through a lens that you might not have looked at before. As a consequence of that, if you have a positive mind and an aptitude to and a desire for things to be better, you will also have a belief that you can make the right choices, and you will carve out a new and different and a more positive path in the future. So there's a bit of a what's the phrase? A leap of faith, I guess. But as a learner going onto the program, I'd really encourage you to have that leap of faith and trust yourself that you'll find the answers that you need, because I think you will. Because a lot of it is about attitude.
Great, thanks, John. Another question coming in from Carl. I'm going to pass it over to you, John. For information, we've asked each of the 12 GM-active member organisations to select 2 staff members to take part in this transformational leadership programme. So Carl's asked, is it beneficial to work with the co-worker you are enrolled on this course with to create more of a wider impact when it comes to the 100-day plan? So instead of doing it individually, doing it as a team. What are your thoughts, John?
That's a really good question. I mean, they're all good questions. I haven't got an immediate answer. All I would say is, in most things in life, it's what works best for you, as long as there is challenge, I suppose. As long as you feel that you're being challenged as an individual leader, as well as a collaborative one, I think find your own way of getting the most out of the program. So I think there will be benefit in doing that, sort of working alongside a co-worker, because that could stimulate things that the advantage of it, of course, is that by working with somebody else from your own organization, you because you're two separate individuals, you'll have different perspectives. You might have different perspectives of the same thing. And I think, you know, if you start to air those and be open and have, you know, good discussion about them, it would be good to have an environment where you can challenge each other. And out of that comes, you know, richer stuff as a consequence. So that's a benefit to that approach. But as I say, I think it's important that you also apply your own mind to things and ensure that you're taking care of your own personal development as part of the process too. It's a bit of a woolly answer, but as I say, I think it's something that we can give some thought to, definitely.
John, it's Andrea Pardo from Link for Life. One of these, this is an area we talked about when we were developing the programme, and absolutely, if it's a benefit to the organisation and the individuals to work together within their organisation, then absolutely they should do that. And as you say, they will both learn from each other and from the programme, but also they may find colleagues or other participants who are working on similar activities or similar plans, who work in other trusts, and for them to work with those people as well could be a great opportunity for each of the organisations, but each of them to learn from each other, and to learn from organisations outside of their own trust. So I think, as you say, when they come to do the plan, it will depend on what they want to do, what they want to get from that, which will decide where they work individually with another colleague or with a participant from another trust.
I think that's a really good point that you make, Andrea, about the benefit of all 12 organisations being part of this programme. The ability to share across organisations, I think, is going to be really quite beneficial. You know, the more perspectives that you can have as an individual across things is the richer you'll become. And I think the intention, Paul and I have chatted, the intention is to set up some form of group so that there is an open communication channel amongst yourselves and with us, so that you can bounce things around. And I think that will be quite helpful to the whole cohort. Yeah, good point, Andrea.
John, I also think it's really important that, in picking up in Duncan's point, that the guys challenge themselves. So if you are a good indoor operator, choose something in 100 days that involves communities outside, people who don't come to your facilities. Really, really challenge yourself. And John, like my only regret, John, is I never got to work with you. And I know when you put this programme together, you give the guys the confidence to go ahead and when they get to the end up to be able to do that. And again, it's back to the process. That's what I would love to see. I don't care about 1 people, 2 people working together team. It's about the challenge. It's about stepping out of your comfort zone, and hopefully we'll give you the confidence to do that.
Great point. I agree.
Right, we've got some more questions coming in. I'm going to aim this one at Andy and also Duncan. So this is from Richard. Is a permission being given by the CEOs of the trusts, the GM Active directors, and also the leaders in the councils to apply the learnings taken from the approach being discussed? And I suppose give some of these learners protected time to take forward some of their learnings.
Yeah, I read that, and it's an interesting one to ponder. I don't think we're really asking for lots of permissions from people to do this. Or to apply the learning, but I think again that's part of the system learning, is to challenge what's going on, take people with us, or you to take people with you, and to disrupt a little bit as well. That will no doubt be part of it. So what I can say is, from a GM Active board, we've been working on this for some time to get to this starting line, and everybody's very excited about it. So we've got a lot of support. A lot of the chief execs on the board and the MDs are fully behind this. But I expect us to be doing things that might cause a bit of thought. You know, even my own staff on this course, I'm sure will come back and challenge what we do, with a view to trying to make us better. And that's part of it. As I say, this isn't a sort of come along, learn something, go off at the back end. It's to explore and open minds, and then to go back and challenge and disrupt. So I don't think we're asking for permission. What we've got is support to actually start this process off, and let's see where we end up.
Just to add to Andy, I'll give you a little anecdote. One thing that I learned very, very late in my life, at the age of about 40, I'm 52 now, is that you have the right to ask for anything. And somebody inspired me to do that. And when I got to a point in my career where I wanted to make a change, somebody encouraged me to ask somebody a very bold question in order that I could achieve a goal. And I ended up writing to Michael Bloomberg, the mayor of New York, to ask him if I could go to New York and learn how New York delivers its parks and recreation service and how it works with the third sector. Little old me. Michael Bloomberg didn't know who I was. So I got a lot of advice, I got a lot of help, I got a lot of endorsements. I wrote the best letter of my life to Michael Bloomberg. And I thought, I'm never going to see that again. In 2 days, Michael Bloomberg, the mayor of New York, he's the fourth richest man in the world, wrote back to me saying, Duncan, we'd love to have you come over, liaise with my Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, and you can go wherever you want, you can meet whoever you want to meet, and we want to share our learning with you. And I had the best 8 days of my life in New York. It was absolutely brilliant. So guys, if I can do it, you can do it.
Great story. Thanks, Duncan. Hayley, have you got your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to come in on the point about permission, I guess, and I guess what I've experienced in this last 4 years working in Greater Manchester is perhaps less an invitation, perhaps more an invitation to do things differently, because it says it all over the tin, doesn't it? But the realities of that are that it does take some air cover, if not permission. So a couple of points have been raised earlier in the conversation about resilience and about what does it take of us as leaders if we're going to work in this way. And I definitely think there's an ongoing conversation to be had if you're going to develop as a community of practice or community of learning together, to create a space in which you can be really honest about the challenges that come with that. Because there are loads of challenges. We know there's red tape and bureaucracy, and the way that things are commissioned don't always work for the outcomes that we seek, and all the things that are going to surface through the work that you do, especially with the 100 days focus. So I think the ask that I would put into the room is that you create a really safe space in which you can have those honest conversations, and that you put aside the inherent sort of competitiveness that can come out, or the fears of that honesty, the stuff that comes with that, stepping over that line and telling it how it is. I think, and have experienced, that when you do that as a group of people, the learning and the progress that you can make is immense. Or you can sit, and hold back and take your worries elsewhere and shy away from that, and you won't, and together we won't learn, and we won't make the change that needs to happen. And Andy and I were at GM Moving Exec Group last Thursday, and we spent probably a good third of that meeting, if not more, talking really honestly about the challenges in the work and the blockages and the barriers and the consistent things that are getting in the way of the system change that we want to see happen. So unless you bring forward those challenges, then no one can even begin to start to unpick them and address them. But that also takes, there's like layers of air cover required, because if you guys are going to bring those challenges forward, then the people who are leading your organisations and then are leading and commissioning within the system also need some space to work differently and try different ways of working. So that's what we, on a grand scale, that's what we have in Greater Manchester. We have that real commitment to try and do things differently. So but it does take courage, and there's a lot of learning from the kind of from the principles and the ways of working of GM Moving and the local pilot work, and about how you create that sense of space for the honesty and the real deep collaboration that is so important if we're going to shift, and really engage in communities. So yeah, I think that's definitely one to pick up, if not every session along the way. And I think breaking out into small groups and things is a really good way of doing that, because you can be a lot more, camera on, engaged, having the honest conversations in small rooms.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hayley, for that. Time is now upon us, unfortunately. We've had an hour. I hope this has been a captivating introduction to the Transformational Leadership Programme. For those staff who are selected for cohort 1, that starts in 2 weeks' time with John, 5:30 on Monday, the 5th of July. And look forward to kind of seeing you all there. I'd like to thank you very much for the panel, for your time, your dedication, your enthusiasm, and your expertise for developing the programme as it is now, as well as over the next 5 months. And I'd like to kind of stress this is a pilot programme. Really want to kind of get the feedback from everyone involved as we kind of go through this transformational leadership journey, so that we can adapt and improve it as required. I'll hand over to John and Paul for the last closing remarks.
Thanks, Chris. I mean, I think that's a really good point. You know, it is a learning process for us too. It's a pilot, and you know, we will learn some stuff ourselves in order that we can refine it, not just for you, but for others to come. And I always like the word pioneer rather than guinea pig, by the way. That's so consider yourself to be pioneers and not guinea pigs in terms of the context of the pilot. But it's going to be great to have you on board, and a phrase that Andy used, you know, it's you get out what you put in this life. So you know, it's for you to grasp. And my last comment is around Hayley's observation about courage. It sort of goes with the territory around leadership, and it is important. And Duncan shared a great story around a courageous letter that he wrote. And I think every single one of us on here, Malk, Andy, Dunk, Hayley, myself, we all recognise that notion of daring to be courageous in our careers, and sometimes it's tough, but the benefits are there. And if you and you learn so much when you go through that, when you dare to be courageous, you learn an awful lot about yourself, about other people, and about the place in which you're in. So that's an encouragement to sort of take Hayley's words on board. Paul, do you want to wrap up?
Yeah, it sounds like a good place for me to wrap up there. So the recording of this session will be made available shortly, so you can refer back to it if you need to. And we'll also collate all the links that Hayley and Duncan have shared in their blogs, and make sure everyone's got access to those as well, so that you can kind of immerse yourself in all the abundance of knowledge that's flying around the room. But the part 1 of the programme starts in July, and we look forward to seeing you all on that. Thank you very much, everyone.